You are watching the Anglican Cable Network Nigeria. ACNN, reaching the world with the undiluted Word of God.
The Word of God is God's instrument for deliverance. The Bible said in Psalm chapter 107 verse 20 that he sent forth his word and he led them from every destruction. All men that were of great generational impact were men who encountered God via the word. In this age of shallow Christianity, where many are no longer committed to discipleship, we need the word of God in order not to be tossed to and fro by every wind of doctrine. For true Christian growth and maturity, there is no substitute for the word. Little wonder St. Paul wrote to the church in Colossus and said, let the word of God dwell richly amongst you. The word of God is God. Bible said in the beginning was the word, and the word was with God, and the word was God. Join me and other men of God on this station weekly as we learn at the feet of Jesus. Wednesday is 2 p.m., Saturday is 11 a.m., and Sunday 6:15 a.m. God bless you. The word of God is God's instrument for deliverance. The Bible said in Psalm chapter 107 verse 20 that he sent forth his word and he led them from every destruction. All men that were of great generational impact were men who encountered God via the word. In this age of shallow Christianity, where many are no longer committed to discipleship, we need the word of God.
And we have the picture of the President, Muhammadu Buhari and Obasanjo. We come down to the bottom strip stories. Alleged professional misconduct. EFCC reports Justice Taiwo to NJC over Saraki Okorocha. You can find that story on page 9. And on page 19, Purchasing Managers Index grows further. That's coming from CBN reports. And we go to the next, which is on page 4. NAS drops stringent accreditation measures for journalists as Saraki vows to probe matters. Then on page 14, economic recovery growth plans, 7% target not achievable by 2020. That is coming from Udoma on page 14. And on that same page, Buhari returns from Saudi Arabia, presides over fake valedictory section. Then we go above the masthead. Femi Aribisala, no Yoruba president in Nigeria for another 20 years. You can find that story on page 30 and on page 40. Otedola visits Chairman Chukwu in London. And on page 7, bandits kill 34 in 3 Katsina local government areas. And we have this article by Pat Utome on pages 22 and 23. It's on Why Not. It says Delta State primaries of APC, a charade and mockery of democracy. To find out details, you need to get this newspaper, the Vanguard newspaper. And finally, on this paper, CBN to limit banks' appetite for government securities retains monetary policy rate at 13.5%. You can find that story on page 9.
All right, Rachel, thank you. I have the Nigerian Tribune, and I'll be starting with a story above the masthead. It says, federal government, states, local governments share 616.198 billion naira April allocation. That story begins on the front page and continues on page 36. Beside that, reps pass bill to abolish discrimination between degree HND. You can find that on page 3. Coming down below the masthead, CBN to limit banks lending to government, page 11. NAS accreditation guideline for journalists suspended. Saraki orders probe, page 2. And on page 9, police to block some roads as Atiku's application hearing opens today. And the big story, Federal government attacks Obasanjo over Fulanization comment. You can find that story on page 4 of the Nigerian Tribune. And there we have a big picture of the Oyo State Governor, the Minister of Transportation, and the Executive Secretary, Nigeria Shippers Council, during the inspection of the ongoing work on Ibadan Inland Dry Port in Egbeda local government area of the state on Tuesday. Beside the picture, 5 killed as gunmen attack Katsina villages, and its key car, kidnappers abduct chief hunter. One order in Oshun demand 2 million naira ransom. Pages 30 and 36. And finally, from the Nigerian Tribune, EFCC quizzes Kwara SSG, Assembly clerk over 400 million naira payment of severance to public officers, lawmakers, on page 37. Over to you, Rachel.
All right, the next paper is the New Telegraph, and it leads with private sector lending. CBN moves against banks. Mole ceilings on government securities investment. MPC retains lending rate at 13.5% due to inflation. And federal government's revenue fell to 2.31 trillion naira in first quarter. And with the last kickers, FAAC shares 616 billion naira. You can find that story on pages 2, 6, and 29. And we have this big picture of the former governor of Abia State, Orji Uzor Kalu, the president of Venezuela, and his wife during Orji Kalu's visit at the presidential palace on Monday. And the bottom strip stories: Army, Wike offered general billions of naira to rig polls. Wike offered general billions of naira to rig polls, says governor engaging in area boy gerrymandering. You can find that story on page 4. And finally, the bottom strip story: LED lights damage eyes. LED lights damage eyes, disrupt sleep. That is a study from ANSES. You can find that story on page 7. And we come above the masthead. Federal government shops for $140 billion infrastructure development fund. Targets US, Europe, China. 3.5 trillion naira spent in 3 years. Rewane forecloses recession. And NNPC remits 1.26 trillion naira to Federation account in 1 year. You can find that story on page 10. And below the masthead, on page 5, same infraction. MTN pays 275 billion naira fine to balance 55 billion naira this month. And on page 4, Saraki Dogara disowns NAN's accreditation guidelines for journalists. And on page 34, Kogi governor orders monarchs, local government chairs to fish out killers or get fired. And finally, on the New Telegraph, French widow sues Boeing for $276 million over Ethiopian crash. You can find that story on page 36.
And the next paper is the Nation newspaper. The story is above the masthead. On page 8, federal government approves 25 billion naira for ASU. That story is on page 8. On page 3, FIRS plans to exceed 5.32 trillion naira revenue. And beside that, MTN equities rally 2.68 trillion naira in 4 days. Page 37. Knock for National Assembly overrules. Page 8. Igalo begins lad training tomorrow, page 47. And Kwara House Clerk, I beg your pardon, Kwara House Clerk held over 400 million naira pay. Coming down below the masthead, MPC, that is the Monetary Policy Committee, directs Central Bank of Nigeria to restrict banks' access to bonds, treasury bills. The story begins on the front page and continues on page 8. Coming down, the major story, federal government attacks Obasanjo over divisive comments. The kicker has it, anger over ex-president's Fulanization remark. You can find that story on the front page of the Nation newspaper and continues on page 6. Below that story is the big picture of President Muhammadu Buhari being received by the Acting Inspector General of Police on his arrival at the Nnamdi Azikiwe International Airport, Abuja, from Saudi Arabia yesterday. And finally, from the Nation newspaper, beside that picture is the picture of the late Adeleke, the daughter of the late Brigadier General Adekola Alfred Adeleke, and the story has it, houseboy to die by hanging for killing boss. That is all from the Nation newspaper.
All right, next is the Business Day newspaper, and it leads with, these are the reforms needed to jumpstart Nigeria's ailing economy. The story starts from the front page and it continues on page 4. And beside that, CBN moves to restrict bank's appetite for federal government securities, holds MPR at 13.5%. to enact regulation for consumer credit and mortgage business. Then we come down, top 25 CEOs and Nest Bulls award winners. You can find that story inside the paper. And we come to page 2. Nigeria applicants lament long appointment date for U.S. visas. And we come above the masthead. Enaise Okenedo elevated to full professor. And that is it on this paper. Phoebe?
All right.
At this point.
All right, so at this point, let's go for a quick break. Viewers, we will be back shortly.
Why do we fall ill? Is it possible to stay without falling ill? Is God interested in our health? Can we get access to cheaper health anywhere? Do you want tips on how to stay healthy? Then join me, Angela Weze, on Health Watch every Tuesday at 9:30 a.m. with repeat broadcasts on Thursday at 2 p.m. and Saturday at 1:30 p.m. as health experts provide answers to your questions on how to remain healthy physically, mentally, socially, and spiritually here on Anglican Cable Network Nigeria. God bless you.
Hello there. Have you ever wondered why Jesus spoke in parables? What do you make of the word parable? Do you find it hard interpreting parables on your own? Don't worry. We have answers to those questions on Parables. Parables is a program that brings to bear what parable means and how it affects our day-to-day lifestyles, the church, the individual, and the society at large. Join me, Nzubechi Frank, as we explore the significance and the innate meaning of each parable of Jesus Christ. Coming to you every Saturday, 1 to 1:30 p.m. with repeat broadcast on Sundays, 7 a.m., Tuesdays, 3:30 p.m. and Thursdays, 7 a.m. from the Anglican Cable Network Nigeria, ACNN. God bless you.
Welcome back, viewers. Sport is next, and we have the Vanguard Sport on pages 45 and 46. First story, Gian quits Black Stars over captaincy. And the next is Manchester United are willing to lower their demands for midfielder Paul Pogba, asking price to 138 million euros. And beside that, forward Roberto Firmino has given Liverpool a Champions League final boost by returning to training. Next, Belgium recall company for Euro qualifiers. Belgium recall company for Euro qualifiers. An upright Otedola visit Chukwu in London offers more assistance. Chukwu thankful. And last on this page, Hazard's closest player to get to Mercy. And on page 46, that is the next page, Ndidi's fourth most hard-working EPL player. Ndidi's fourth most hard-working EPL player. And below that, top stars jet in for Okpepe. And coming down, Ogbeide, MPFL to observe 60-second silence, wear black armband on March Day 22nd. Moses glad to score Fenerbahce winner. And we come upright. France 2019. Super Falcons arrive in Austria. Iwobi to pocket 46.8 million naira if Arsenal win Europa League. And beside that, Poland 2019. FIFA braves Flying Eagles on new lures of the game. And finally, on the sport pages this morning, Onyekuru in Bayern's transfer net.
All right, viewers.
This is the much we have on the midweek edition of the newspaper review. Until we come your way again.
That's right.
Bye for now.
Bye for now.
The word of God is God's instrument for deliverance. The Bible said in Psalm chapter 107 verse 20 that he sent forth his word and he led them from every destruction. All men that were of great generation